Welcome to this video on expanding three sets of brackets. When we're expanding one set of brackets, we take whatever's outside the brackets, in this case that 2x, and we multiply it by the first thing in the brackets, that's the x. So 2x multiplied by x equals 2x squared. Then we multiply that same thing outside the brackets by the second thing in the brackets. In this case it's 2x multiplied by plus 1, and so that equals plus 2x. So the key idea is you multiply whatever's outside the brackets by everything inside the brackets. Now, if you're expanding two sets of brackets, you need to remember the acronym FOIL, F-O-I-L. The F in FOIL means that you multiply the first two terms in each bracket. In this case, it's the x multiplied by the 2x, which gives us 2x squared. The O stands for the outside two terms in each bracket. In this case, the x and the minus 3, which gives us minus 3x. The I stands for the inside two terms in each bracket. In this case, the plus 1 and the 2x, that gives us plus 2x. The L is the last two terms in each of the brackets, which is the plus 1 and the minus 3 multiplied together gives us minus 3. Now finally, we can simplify the two x terms here. We've got negative 3x's and we add 2x's on, we're left with just a negative x in the middle. And that's how you expand two sets of brackets. When we expand three sets of brackets, we're going to combine these two methods together, starting with the expanding two brackets part. So your first step is expand out these first two sets of brackets using that FOIL method. So if we go the first term times the first term, that's going to give us x squared. Then the outside two terms multiplied together is going to give us negative 2x. The inside two terms, 1 and x, is going to give us just 1x or plus x. And the last two terms, 1 and negative 2, is going to multiply together to give us negative 2. Now we can write all these things together in a set of brackets, and that's going to give us this x squared minus x minus 2. And the minus x here just comes from the combination of x minus 2x. And you'll notice that this last bracket, this third bracket here, stays exactly the same. We just leave that one on the end. The next thing we do is we break up this third bracket here. So when we do that, we take this first term in here, this x, and we put that in front of this whole expanded set of brackets. Then we do the same thing, we write this expanded set of brackets out again and put the plus 3 in front. So that looks like this. This x in the front comes from this first x in this third set of brackets. This plus 3 comes from this plus 3 in that third set of brackets. And these two brackets here are just this expanded set of brackets written out twice. And now it's just like expanding one set of brackets two times. We take whatever's outside the brackets, this x in this case, and multiply it by everything inside the brackets. So that's going to give us x to the power of 3, we've got x times x squared, minus x squared, x times negative x, minus 2x, x times negative 2. And then we've got this positive 3 times everything inside the second set of brackets. 3 times x squared is plus 3x squared, 3 times negative x is negative 3x, and 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So now we can simplify this by joining together the negative x squared and the plus 3x squareds, which is going to give us 2x squareds, and the negative 2x and the negative 3x to give us negative 5x's. So this is how we expand three sets of brackets. Now there's one more thing that you might come across in complex numbers. Instead of expanding brackets that have x in them, you might expand brackets that have I in them instead. Now if you come across this, you've got to look out for one thing, that is I squareds. And the reason you have to look out for I squared is because I means the square root of negative 1. So I squared is the square root of negative 1 squared. The squared and the square root will cancel each other out, and that means that I squared equals negative 1. So that means all of these x squareds that if they were instead i's would be replaced with I squareds actually can be replaced with negative 1. And if you replace your final answer down the bottom here with negative 1, that means you can simplify it even further. But it doesn't stop there. X to the power of 3 would in fact be I to the power of 3. Or in other words, I multiplied by I squared. And we know that I squared is negative 1, so it's the same as negative 1i, or negative I. So as you can see, we can simplify things a lot more if we have i's instead of any other letter. And that's because I squared equals negative 1. So here's everything you need to know about expanding three sets of brackets. The first step is that you expand the first two brackets using that FOIL method. Use the first two terms, the outside two terms, the inside two terms, and then the last two terms, all multiplied together. Now you put that in a set of brackets and leave this third set of brackets sitting on the end here. Now you can simplify the like terms, and in this case, that would give you x squared minus 3x minus 10 for that first set of brackets. Now what you do is you're going to split up the third set of brackets. So you're going to write out the expanded brackets twice, once here, and again over here, and then you're going to take this x, put it out in front of the third set of brackets, and this negative 3 and put it in front of the second set of brackets here. Then you'll multiply whatever's outside the brackets by everything inside the brackets. And you do this for both sets of brackets here. Once you do this, you're going to end up with some really long set of numbers. And these can get really long in your exams. Then you're going to have to simplify by joining together like terms. Here we've got negative 3x squared and negative 3x squared, so that would become negative 6x squared. And we've got negative 10x and plus 6x, so that would become negative 4x. And the final thing to remember if you're doing complex numbers is that if you're expanding something that has complex numbers in it, so involves I, any I squareds are going to equal negative 1. So in this case, if we had i's all throughout our equations instead of x's, this last term you'd replace the I squared with negative 1. You'd replace the I to the power of 3 with I times I squared, which is the same as saying negative I or negative 1I. And you'd replace this final x over here with an I. And that means you can simplify things further. So this negative 6 multiplied by negative 1 would become plus 6. We could join together this plus 6 and the plus 30 to make plus 36. Then we could join together the negative I and the negative 4i's to make negative 5i's. So it would simplify your answer even further. So we'll look at one more example that only uses I, just to make sure we're clear on this front. Here we have I minus 2 squared and I plus 4. Now remember, when you have a bracket squared, you can't just square what's in the brackets. You have to write it out 2 times. So I minus 2 multiplied by I minus 2. And of course, still multiplied by this I plus 4. So we expand out these first 2 sets of brackets here. And I times I is I squared. I times negative 2 is negative 2i. And negative 2 times I is also negative 2i. That's where we get our negative 4i from. And then negative 2 multiplied by negative 2 is positive 4. And we've still got this I plus 4 on the end here. But remember, anytime you see an I squared, you can replace it with negative 1. And that means you can simplify things further. Because here we've got 4 minus 1. So we can write that out more simply as this negative 4i plus 3. And again, this bracket on the end, this I plus 4, doesn't change. And now in this case, you can actually expand out this set of brackets just using FOIL, but just to prove a point, I'm going to follow the same steps we've been learning. We're going to split up this third set of brackets and write out this first set of brackets that we've just expanded twice. So write this first set of brackets out once here and once over here. Then we put this I from the last set of brackets in front of that first one we've written out, and the plus 4 in front of the second one we've written out. Now we expand everything that's in the brackets. So I multiplied by negative 4i gives us negative 4i squared. I multiplied by plus 3 gives us plus 3i. Plus 4 multiplied by negative 4i squared gives us negative 16i. And plus 4 multiplied by plus 3 gives us plus 12. But again, remember, you've got I squared, so you can replace that with a negative 1. And negative 4 multiplied by negative 1 equals positive 4. So now we can join together our 4 and our 12, which will give us 16. And then our 3i minus 16i, which is going to give us negative 13i. So this is how you expand 3 sets of brackets and how you can simplify things further if you have complex numbers, so I, because the I squared equals negative 1.